Hello and welcome to Day and Night Prime. I'm Jasleen Kaur.
And I'm Kamar Sandhu. Delayed justice, poor appreciation of evidence and inability to apply constitutional and legal principles to the real life situations have played havoc with people's lives.
The need of the hour is to ensure that rule of law touches every individual, including the last man in queue. It would go a long way to realize simple, speedy, cheap, effective and substantial justice.
Tonight in Prime, we discuss the judicial reforms and what needs to be done and how.
Justice can be done if I want to do justice. If I do not want to do justice, whatever reform you bring, it won't help.
We need to have more judges first of all. We need to create more infrastructure because number of judges compared to the population is one of the lowest in world in India.
In appointment of the judges, we need to have a very transparent system, and the judges should be appointed who possess a very high caliber, and the honesty should be the topmost priority.
एलिगेशन सिस्टम है दैट शुड बी वेरी फास्ट और ख़ास तौर से हाई कोर्ट और सुप्रीम कोर्ट लेवल में जस्ट बिफोर द वैकेंसी उसकी एलिगेशन प्रोसेस स्टार्ट हो जाना चाहिए.
The bureaucrats must be very responsible because the state is the largest litigant in India.
Lawyers have also to be more responsible so that they do not take any dates which are not necessary.
लोअर कोर्ट से लेके सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक टोटल कोर्ट्स को कंप्यूटराइज कर दिया जाना चाहिए.
As we appoint senior advocates and designate senior advocates in High Court, there must be a clause for them to do pro bono cases free of cost.
This delivery system has to be revamped.
Mataji, in fact, the concept of judicial reform has become obsolete. In fact, it requires judicial overhauling, entire overhauling. Reforms won't do now. The time is gone for reforms.
Given the number of pending cases and the delay caused, judicial reforms are needed at the earliest. To discuss this, we have with us in our studios Mr. R.S. Cheema, former Advocate General Punjab, Mr. Anupam Gupta, former Standing Counsel for UT Administration, and Senior Advocate Ashok Agarwal, who is also the former Advocate General Haryana. Welcome to the studio. We will also be joined from Chandigarh by Mr. Justice S.S. Kang, former Chief Justice of Jammu and Kashmir High Court and the Governor of Kerala. But before we proceed, here is the report.
Charles Dickens once wrote, "The one great principle of the English law is to make business for itself." Three things are beneficial to a lawyer: complicated and ambiguous laws, numerous adjournments and long gaps between hearings, and influence, which can mean who the lawyer knows and how much the client can spend. The lawyer who can command the highest fee is the lawyer who is able to get acquittal for a guilty person. Big criminals consult lawyers before committing a crime to be sure that they will get away with it. Lawyers control the evidence. They can just spin it out for months. Lawyers have a vested interest in ensuring that as many questions spend as long a time in court as possible. No lawyer would like to see the judicial process speeded up. It will impact two things: his fees and his chances of successfully defending his client. The majority of MPs and MLAs are or have been lawyers. They dominate Parliament. Judges are less likely to oppose reform than lawyers because they are not getting paid by the hour as lawyers are. But every judge was once a lawyer and is very likely to have numerous close relatives who are lawyers. The current system resembles a cartel in which there are judges, lawyers and to some extent academics. Members of a cartel collude to increase prices and therefore profits. Bureau Report, Day and Night News.
So we'll start our discussion on the pendency of cases. It is estimated that of the 3 crore cases pending in the country, as many as 38 lakh are pending in various high courts. Mr. Cheema, let me start with you by asking that it is often said that the lawyers are the direct beneficiaries of the delay and the pending cases, and they have a vested interest in not speeding up the process. Would you agree?
Well, Mr. Sandhu, I think that is a fact, but that is oversimplifying a very complicated situation today. Today we have the entire institution almost breaking down on it under its own burden, and everybody is feeling the heat of the arrears. The lawyer has to discharge certain commitments. You book a case 10 years ago, it's not finished. So the issues which are at the back of delays are very many. The one which we are ignoring, the biggest litigant is the state. The state today is the one which is the party in large majority of cases. And one concept which must now be adopted is a legal audit. States' briefs are such that if they are rationally classified, there would be a lot of action which would eliminate about 25 to 30%. Courts again can have groups which would speed up. Lawyers certainly will have to play a part. Lawyers would have to change their outlook. They are responsible. I'm only saying they are one part of the problem.
Mr. Agarwal, you just heard what Mr. Cheema has
Quite
just
right.
said. Yeah, who exactly is to blame for the pendency?
According to me, basically what we have lacked is that we have lacked what we call as accountability, in the sense that the moment you have a new law, for example, there was a section brought in the Negotiable Instruments Act, all the courts got flooded with it. Nobody at that time audited, nobody at that time saw that we are bringing in a law, legislature brought in the law. They should have foreseen at that time that this law having been brought would add and flood the courts. So therefore we must at that time provide adequate machinery in the shape of judges, in the shape of supporting staff, in the shape of infrastructure, and largely it is a vision. I would use the expression, even with the legislature, leave apart the executive, which is otherwise to provide the wherewithal for the purpose of administration of justice. One can very easily blame a lawyer, or one can much easier to blame a judge, leave apart a lawyer, because the judge is unable to defend himself. A lawyer may at times, But the fundamental problem is that the law-making bodies, the legislature, at the time when the laws are made, at the time when the laws are added, new rights are created, new obligations are created, new adjudicatory mechanisms are created. Nobody is conscious of the fact that all this would require a whole lot of, I would say, manpower at all levels. For example, I am giving in Chandigarh, I can give you an example. 52% of the total pending cases in the trial courts are cases of what you call loosely as check bounce, 138 matters. At the time when this provision was brought in, nobody has conceived, nobody has thought, the provision is brought in that you need additional magistrates for it, you need additional superior courts for it. I would use the expression, you need infrastructures, supporting staff, prosecutors, servers, process servers will serve the sermon, and then the matters will come to High Court. You need additional judges for it. So lacking is that we don't plan, and therefore we ultimately blame the judiciary, and while blaming the judiciary we are a little cautious that we better blame the lawyer and better not blame the judge. But the difficulty is that the lawmakers don't want to, for whatever reasons. I am not saying either they are not correctly advised, or they don't have time for this, or they don't have really the requisite what you call as the wherewithal in the shape of money.
Possibly the lawyers are the most visible face of the judiciary.
That is the difficulty, and that is the difficulty. We are called an officer of the court, and therefore to criticize us as a lawyer and as an officer of the court is the easiest thing. And leave apart a lawyer, Mr. Cheema standing, any lawyer of any standing would never like to defend himself by telling that you have tried to defame me by calling me names,
Right. So, Mr. Gupta, do you agree with what Mr. Agarwal is saying?
Well, partly. As much as judges, as much as lawmakers and administrators, police officers, doctors, all those who interact with this legal system and impact upon it, lawyers are definitely part of the problem. The declining sense of values, the declining intellectual character, lack of application is on the part of the legal community is definitely a part of the problem. As Mr. Sandhu put it, and put it rather aptly, we are the visible face of the failure and the impending collapse of the system. And as someone who is on the wrong side of this flack or criticism, I don't grudge the public their reaction. Though the problem of arrears and the possible strategies to resolve this problem is a very complicated matter, and no single short solution is possible.
Mr. Gupta, we are here in a situation where 50 to 60% of cases, the government is the litigant, right? So should such cases be referred to an arbitration authority? as it's been suggested?
Yes. Alternative dispute resolution or arbitration is something the system is gaga about. And from the Chief Justice of India downwards, it's now ritual. And the ritual is turning into banality to applaud and to patronize the alternative dispute resolution system. For any lawyer, any trained lawyer, the delay in the arbitration system is as endemic as the delay in the normal system of adjudication.
Much worse.
And no less lucrative, perhaps even more lucrative for my tribe of lawyers. The reality of arbitration, therefore, perhaps could turn out to be even sadder than or more tragic than the reality of normal adjudication.
Let me get Justice Kang into the discussion. Justice Kang, can you hear me, please?
Yes, please.
Justice Kang, now you heard the three eminent lawyers on their view of pendency, and now you had a wide experience. You were even the Chief Justice of the J&K High Court. What is your take on what is adding to this, the increasing pendency in the courts?
I think before finding the remedy, we must know the causes. Some of the causes perhaps we may not be having a immediate solution, but the causes are firstly explosion of population, secondly we are a society in transition, there has been an erosion of values, greed and ego are very dominating factors in human activities. Then coupled this leads to lot of litigation. Then the administration, unfortunately, the administration at the cutting edge has become totally blunt. Most of the people have to deal with people, of government officials of a lower level. There is inefficiency, corruption, political interference, and other even more grimmer thing is that the supervisory staff, the senior officers, do not exercise their due control. So there is a lot of injustice, arbitrariness that leads to another set of litigation. Then coming to the courts itself, there has been recently a flood of prosecutors and people appointed to very senior law officers who are not efficient. Similarly, the selection process of appointment of the judiciary at the lower level and even elevation to the higher judiciary. We have recently accepted a new system of appointment of judges by where the judiciary only has the, say. My personal view is that that has failed. This has also added in a way to the pendency of cases.
Justice Kang, I would like to ask you that do you think the move to set up Gram Nyayalayas and mobile courts, family courts and also commercial courts will help reduce the pendency?
Definitely. Definitely we have to think of alternative system of dispute resolutions. With respect, I don't agree with Mr. Gupta that arbitration is no remedy and that, or rather it is not being effectively used in India. I remember of one or two cases where the stake was a few 100 crores and the case was decided before the arbitration within 1 year. If it had gone to a court, even I think service will not be complete within 1 year. So this will be very helpful. Secondly, in courts itself, where the bar comes, the role of bar comes, there have been a